Today, I want to talk about you get what you tolerate. Now, what does that mean? You get what you tolerate means that if you have something that you identify in your business that is a problem or an issue, and you continue to tolerate it without addressing it, you will get what you tolerate. So if it's something that's ticking you off and ticking you off badly, I guess one of the things that I see that as business owners, if we do identify things that are ticking us off, sometimes we can be reluctant to want to address it because we either don't like confrontation or we feel that we don't want to upset any of our team members or that it may be taken the wrong way. My experience here tells me that when you don't address those problems and you don't nip them in the bud, they tend to just fester and get bigger and bigger and bigger until you reach a point where there's no choice but to boil over. And in boiling over, that's the very last thing that as a business owner and as a business leader that you want to do. So when you start to address the things that are ticking you off, that's when you start to take control. It's important that in setting the culture within your business, that your team members understand where your line in the sand is. This is, below the line is what you're prepared to tolerate. Above the line is the things that once somebody puts their toe over the line, that's when you're going to be having a discussion with them. And in my terminology, this is what I call counseling for improving performance. And by counseling for improving performance, the mindset that you're walking into the conversation with is, I'm going to improve this team member's performance, as opposed to going in with a mindset, they've ticked me off, I want to get rid of them. So when you walk into that situation, by improving the employee's performance, you end up with a win-win situation all around. And it's been my experience of having followed this process, counseling for improving performance through my corporate career, is that 80% of the time, the person that you're having the discussion with isn't even aware that they've actually ticked you off. So when you have a discussion, they walk away, you come to a resolution on how you're going to fix the problem, and they understand the consequences if they continue to keep doing it, of what that will be. And eventually, ideally, you don't have to sit down and talk with that person again. And for me, that happens about 80% of the time. About 10 to 15% of the time is that you'll have the discussion, the person will reiterate it. That's when your consequence comes into play second time, which will result in some form of a warning, say that again, some sort of a warning. And eventually that person may elect to leave. Again, this is a win-win situation. And then less than, or up to 5% of the time, you may actually have to terminate somebody, which eventually is a win-win as well. It's a win for you because you're not having to deal with the problem anymore. And it's a win for that person because they can then move on and get on with their life. When you improve that culture in your workplace, it's going to have a real impact on the rest of the team members. Because what most often happens is if there is somebody that's upsetting the apple cart, is that generally they're ticking off all the other team members as well. So they're not only ticking you off, they're ticking off their teammates. And it hasn't been uncommon for me is to have those team people come up to me and shake my hand and say, thank you for taking care of that problem. It was starting to get to us. So the other benefits from counselling and improving employee performance or team member performance is that once you stop tolerating, you start to develop that culture. And another outcome is that your efficiencies and productivity within the business goes up, which equals more profit. It's also you developing your leadership skills, how to deal with these perceived confrontation examples. It's having that conversation, having the difficult conversations. And again, everybody is going to respect you more for it. So let me give an example here. Is I once had a team member who was once a month, one day a month, and it was midweek, would just be absent, and it started to develop a pattern. So what I did was I called them in and I started to have a chat about, is there any reason why you have been absent one day a month on a regular basis? Now, at that point, and I wasn't aware of this, he actually identified and said, well, I actually have a handicapped son who I need to take to a specialist once a month, and that's why I take the day off. Upon knowing that, we looked at some different ways that we could overcome the problem. So I asked him what time was the appointment. He said generally in the afternoon. Now, he had a very early start in the morning, and I said, what time do you need to get away? And he said, he gave me a time that he needed to get away, which is about an hour and a half before his finish time. So I said, well, if you can see your way forward, if you were to come to work and then knock off at that nominated time, I'm more than happy to actually pay you for a full day if you'll come to work. And so the outcome was, again, it was a win-win situation where he agreed to do that. And so, he was helping us out within the team. He wasn't letting his teammates down, and he was helping the business. So again, sometimes when you have these conversations, you'll find out things that you didn't know about, things you may even be able to help with. So again, it was a win-win situation. So the three things that are important to understand here is when you approach that improving employee or team member performance and start to address things that you would normally have been tolerating, you will see some dramatic improvements in culture, efficiency, and productivity. When you are in these meetings and you're having that discussion, silence can be your best weapon. So if you ask a question, wait for a response, and it doesn't matter how long you have to wait for the response, silence is your best weapon. Also, it's important that you employ empathy within that meeting. So you're cool and calm, you're responding with empathy, but at the same time, it's not allowing the removement of responsibility on the team member's behalf. So be empathetic, but ensure that you're still engaging responsibility for their actions. So again, reiterating the benefits is the team understands where the line in the sand is. They'll know what you're prepared to tolerate, what you're not. It improves the culture. And as I mentioned before, improves efficiency, productivity, and the whole business will run a lot smoother. And people will enjoy coming to work. In today's environment, business environment where it's hard to get skills, find the right skills, the right people, it becomes even more important that you don't keep tolerating the things that keep ticking you off. So if you'd like more how to implement this into your business, please book a call with me and we can have a discussion around how that might work for you. Bye now.